Okay.
So,
Dan Robinson, Academy Manager.
I'm Lee Mitchell, Curriculum Team Leader for Sport and Public Services at Burton South Derbyshire College.
okay, so what is the connection between the academy and the college? How do they work together?
So the club subcontract their head of education to the college, which includes looking after all the education for the academy from the 18 under 16 downwards, and it includes the SEP coordinator responsibility. As part of it as well, we look after everything that's the league football education related, so all the scholars, BTEC and educational delivery. That's where it began, and then it extended into the subcontract of the head of education, looking after the broader remit, so working with the younger age groups as well in terms of their kept on track in terms of their educational development, and the partnership strengthened over the time really.
Yeah, it has. It's great for us having such well, I guess, connected college just down the road that allows us to tap into their expertise to support our players, and that's fundamentally what it is all about. That we've got good people there at the college, from Lee and James, head of education, to the tutors, that we can work with to support the players all through the ages.
So when the players are at the college, are they mixing with other people at the college, or are they sort of kept together in their own sort of bubble?
No, yeah, they mix with all of the learners across the whole college, so it's a great experience to take them away from that football environment, gives them a little bit of escape, because they'll work alongside learners from different programmes, they'll share break periods with learners across different programmes, so it's a good experience for them to liaise and network and socialise with learners across all different departments and courses that we offer at the college.
Do you sort of have to safeguard against them? Like, can they play for their college team? Can they play football at lunch, or you're trying to avoid any injury or stuff like that?
Yeah, they're that tired by the time it comes to a college day physically that they're actually just pleased to be off the grass. Now they're fully committed with us, so they have access to gyms here, the gym here, and they do there is a physical element to some of the work they do at the college, but their actual playing is specifically with us.
So what are the sort of courses they're undertaking? Say BTEC, are some of them doing A-levels as well? Is it all sort of sport-related courses, or some people doing something completely different?
Yeah, so they all do, as part of the contract with the league football education, they all do the BTEC Sporting and Excellent pathway, which is on level 3, so the equivalent of A-levels. They all do different size qualifications based on their entry requirements, so based on their GCSE grade will determine the size of the level 3 qualification they do, and some do complete the equivalent of 3 A-levels, the extended diploma, which is impressive to complete alongside a full-time apprenticeship.
Yeah, Ben Radcliffe did those.
Yeah, Ben Radcliffe, which is a great example for it. Matty Palmer in the past, who's gone on to make it in the professional game, as well as Ben Fox. There's been quite a few, and in addition to that, there has been the odd learner that has done an additional A-level as well, and again that's supported financially by the league football education if they demonstrate the academic potential to complete a large BTEC, the apprenticeship, or the athletic side of the programme, and also take on the A-level. It's quite a full-time intense programme, but there has been the opportunity for learners to do that in the past if they've met those academic requirements.
I imagine the education side doesn't need to tell the players to focus on their football, but the football side, they sometimes need to just give the players a nudge in that the education is as important as the football stuff they're doing, due to like the low success rate of academy players into professional game.
Oh yeah, massively, Rory. I mean, the thing for us is that we've seen a correlation between boys who are not necessarily high-level academics.
Yeah, academics.
High-level academics, but hard-working boys at college with progression to the professional game. So the young players that were mentioned before, like Matty Palmer, Ben Fox, Joe Sabara, Kieran Gilligan, these are all graduates from our academy into the professional game, and they've all been, would you say, at the top?
Yeah, definitely.
Of the achievers of whatever level they've been at within the college programme. So when we're talking to younger players, we're saying, like, basically, if you're working hard off the pitch, you're working hard on the pitch. They understand there's a requirement to do it as part of their scholarship, but also that for them and their lives moving forward, there's plenty for them to consider for other options alongside their football, because there's plenty of our players that carry on playing but end up doing something else alongside it. Manny Shitu, he's now working in London for a law firm, as one example. That kind of connection between the two is really important, and I guess that's the big thing from us as a club and with the college, that we both have them aligned visions around developing them as people as well as players. Massively important for us, and I come from a background of 2 teachers as parents, and I wasn't particularly academic, but the hard work has helped myself, so passing that on to the players, and Lee, you the same. You went through the same process as a young player, slightly brighter than me potentially, working in the college, but yeah, we've had some good successes, haven't we?
Yeah, and just to add with that, the new BTEC is actually heavily aligned with content in which they'll do within the football side of it, and will also benefit. So they'll study things like nutrition, fitness testing, analysis. So it's actually relevant to developing their football, their potential within the football side of things. So it's been a very well designed specification from Pearson's with the help from the League Football Education. So actually, it's a lot easier to get the buy-in from the young footballers, because it's topics of interest. They're not being forced to study matters that are really, not attractive to them or not relevant to what their ambitions are. So that helps as well.
So there's obviously, as a young footballer, sort of a lot of temptations, I guess, a lot of potentially negative influences. Is the education scheme also part of steering people away from, excessive drink, drugs, stuff like that? Is there an element of that to it as well? Or is that more dependent by the club?
Well, it's a bit of both really, because the LFE League Football Education programme for our scholars and for all our players, there's a large amount of life skills based training as well, which goes in nicely to the work they do with the college when they do become scholars, and it touches on all the challenges that they will face. We've had presentations today around gambling. We do talks around equality in the game. We have talks around how boys' social media has an impact on decisions that opportunities they may or may not have further down the line. Just to use a couple of examples, and that is part and parcel of the programme of being a young footballer at all clubs through the Football League, and also part of their college programme does include life skills and what they're being better people as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's a requirement of the apprenticeship, the SET programme, to have the life skills delivery. So they have all sorts in terms of addiction, gambling, social media awareness, the list goes on. So that's a requirement that they have to attend those sessions throughout the year, which is fantastic for their personal development and growth of other skills. And then by being at the college, they also get exposure to all the additional events, qualifications and personal development opportunities outside of football, such as those areas that have just been discussed, that they can take advantage of those as well.
So obviously one of the big, issues people make out of academy football is that not enough players make it, or not enough players can make it, just due to pure statistics and numbers. What sort of things have players been able to go into post-football because of the qualifications they've got through the LFE?
So we still get a large proportion that go over to the US on scholarships. There's still a lot of interest in that, and that's introduced to him from quite an early stage on the scholarship programme. So they're going on to higher education. That's another popular choice. A lot do progress on to higher education, so they look to go into to study at university. Majority is sport and exercise based, so they tend not to deter away from that. There has been the odd example, such as Manny Shitu, he's gone into law as a career progression, but we've had others that have gone into careers such as teaching, PE teaching, full-time sports coaches, those that have gone into physiotherapy. So the majority do stay within the sport and exercise industry. And then there are some that leave and go into trade. That's not uncommon. So we've had some that have left and gone into bricklaying, for example, which is non-relevant to what they studied at the college, but they've also developed enough skills to create a suitable and respectable career.
I think the other thing is that you realise, for an employer's point of view, when on your CV you've gone through, most of them a journey, not all of them, but most of them a journey as a schoolboy footballer at the highest level, at a professional club, and then progressed to become a scholar, and then some of them young professionals. It's shows a real resilience and a real commitment to your passion. So it's an attractive thing to have on your for whatever industry you go into, to show that you've done that at an elite level. So if you're working in the law business, for example, and you've got young footballers who have gone through the college, worked hard, got the qualifications, haven't quite made it at the level at the club at that time, but have the ambitions to go into another industry which is high performance, the two marry each other up quite nicely, and yeah, we have a lot of ex-players come and work with us in the academy through all different aspects. Some have been from our academy that have moved on and then come back. Some have left us and then started with us working in something further down the line with some of the younger age groups, because part of their course as well is that they do their level 2 coaching, which is one below the B license, which gives them, it's the C license now, which gives them that foot in the door for coaching qualifications as well, which obviously for a fair few of them is attractive.
So obviously now it seems that there are loads of sort of educational schemes to help players and sort of grow players. When was this introduced, and has it always been this way? Has education and I guess a sort of post-football career always been focused on, or is this a new focus through the FA and the Football League?
I'll let you start with from dating back to your time.
Yeah, well, this is my 7th season at Burton, and I'll be honest, the education has always been at the forefront of what this club's done, and obviously through the relationship with these guys at the college, that we look at trying our very best to give the boys the best opportunities, first and foremost as a person and in their character, how they are, and then there's the football side that obviously is a big part of what we do. I can't speak for all clubs, but I do know there's more and more emphasis every year. There's more of an emphasis on the support that's given to players. It's not to say it wasn't done before, but it's being more formalised. It's being more highlighted around particular roles. So there's now player care roles. There's now roles specifically there to support players after their time in the professional game. So it has improved in that respect, but I would also say that in my time as an academy manager, it's always been at the forefront, because we know the percentages are so low. So when we're in those meetings with players and parents, they know that to get out there on the pitch, it's not going to be a whole group of them. There might be one if we're lucky. And yeah, it is part and parcel of working with young people, that we support them with their life journey as well as whatever the profession is, be it football or another industry. And we have good relationships with our players. They're challenging at times because we're pushing them to the limits, and we're trying to get them involved in something that's not always, shall we say, sunshine and ice creams, is it, out on the pitch. It can be a tough environment to be in. As everybody knows, watching football, entertainment industry comes with side effects. But what we'll do is we'll support them in all aspects of their life after and during the time as a young footballer. I mean, I don't know whether from an education point of view you've seen a real improvement or involvement.
Yeah, I mean, the league football education, you look after all 72 football league clubs, and all their scholars have been in the whole 10 years plus that I've been in education. It's grown, whereas initially there's a lot of focus purely on the qualification and their English and maths for those that still need to improve on their English and maths. And it has grown beyond that in terms of offering A-levels, developing the apprentice standards, the life skills. So there's a lot more involved within that educational package, but it has always been there for the last 10 years at least, and it has all been done certainly to a half decent standard, but it has grown in terms of its quality, but so also in terms of its remit in what it covers. It's quite a broad package now. So as a young apprentice at a professional football club, you are getting a lot of support and a lot of exposure to the things that you need to be success in life, hopefully as a footballer, but if not, in whatever career you choose to progress into.
I'd also say that the governance now on us as football clubs in the youth development space, from Premier League, from the LFE, the EFL, the FA, all the supporting bodies is so, should I say, stringent, as in like they're very, very, every year we're audited, and we're audited in all aspects of our operation, from the football work through to the player care, the aftercare, the education schemes, the recruitment processes, your policies and procedures. Everything is covered within these audits, and not because of that, but I guess that being an awareness of that, you constantly wanting to be better so that you can get through that process, and with that being the case, we can't leave certain stones unturned. We have to make sure if there's certain players that have got travel issues or requirements, we can't just leave them. Well, that's up to you, son. We have to work with them and their families, because we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. But also, it's part of what we've put in place as our policies and processes. So, yeah, there is an involvement to the emphasis on things other than football for us. But I would say for us as a club, we've always put, particularly education, at the forefront.
So, Dan, you played professional. Is that right?
I sat on the bench quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you come through a youth academy?
Yeah, at Derby County. Yeah.
So at Derby, when you were a scholar, were these educational sort of alternative options? Should you not make it were they there? Or were they not as good a standard as they are?
Do you know, when you were asking before around has it like improved, and I'm talking about here and in my time, actually, I'm not sure, you had a great guy at Stoke, didn't you? But I was at Derby as a schoolboy, then I went to Blackpool, and I'll be honest, the emphasis on education was next to zero. You got out of the education what you put into the education. That's not a slight on Blackpool, it was just at that time you went to college and on certain days and you played your football, but it didn't have any real impact. It wasn't emphasised. You had to attend it, and there were rules around it, but it wasn't it just wasn't how it was back in the late 90s. You did your education. Most of the boys did a trade. I did exercise and sports science. Got through it. Distinction, actually. Yeah, I don't know how, but I got through it. But that whole kind of you put into it. You get out of it what you put into it without necessarily a whole load of support. I mean, there was no player care support, there wasn't a head of education, there weren't individual action plan coaches, there weren't all this wrap of people around you to kind of keep guiding you through. You were left to kind of fend for yourself, which could be argued to actually support what some people can do to progress. But that is a big change when you ask of how it's evolved. I mean, would you have seen similar?
Yeah, there was nowhere near as much emphasis on education. I was at Stoke City as an academy. It was one-day release. There's quite a bit of emphasis on. I remember being quite a bit of emphasis on English and maths days that didn't achieve it. But outside of that, we had to do a basic MVQ, a very simple MVQ. But a lot of that was around football-based studies, so like coaching, the life around the life of a footballer. So it didn't extend much beyond that. So if people were like myself, who was unfortunate not to progress into the game, you hadn't really developed much beyond that very small environment. So yeah, it really has improved significantly from that time frame. But we're talking 20 years ago.
Yours was a bit longer.
Finally, I think there's a lot of sort of misconceptions I think about the academy world. I think the education side is one of the biggest. I think there's a lot of people think the education isn't good enough. That maybe footballers aren't interested in education. There's a whole sort of. So I think it's also partly a class thing about footballers being thick or stupid or uneducated. What do you think are they the biggest and main misconceptions, and what would you say to people who perhaps are a bit sneery about the educational qualities of an academy?
You can go first on that one.
I think it's a huge misconception, definitely, and there's lots of example at the top end of the elite professional game of players that are actually highly academic. Glenn Johnson, for example, has gone and got a degree. Tom Huddleston, who obviously came through at Derby, I think he did 3 or 4 A-levels, got A-star in every one. So there's lots of examples at the elite game, I just don't think it's promoted probably as much as it could be. A lot of it keep it to themselves because it's their own personal achievements, and they like to keep the focus onto the football. But I do think, and there's been more of a shift certainly within the modern game recently, that actually, you know, players are a lot more educated than what some would imagine, or the general misconception. That's my personal belief from my experiences and of my own knowledge of what professional football is, the level of academics they've achieved, which would suggest against that opinion.
I 100% agree, and I think that if you think of how the game's evolved and how analysis plays a part, sports science is huge, the nutrition, the tactical emphasis now on the game to get to play at the very top, there has to be a high level of intelligence from the players to take on the messages, both on and off the pitch, to reach the highest level. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that they've got to be A-star students, but they have got to have, back to that point, of a real work ethic to try and be the best they can be in every little aspect of what they do. And the education side of it, from football clubs' perspective, it's part of the programme through the LFE. We're all audited on it. We're all kind of governed by the organisation that wants to see progress, and we celebrate it. We've had some wonderful successes with, again, the players who've progressed and been high achievers, but plenty that have gone on to other things that have been high achievers. And when you're in an industry where you're looking at, I think the latest statistic, and you might correct me, Rory, it was less than 1% progress and then have a sustained career beyond the age of 24, I think it is, then just celebrating that is quite a tough industry to be positive in. But if you celebrate all the other aspects of boys progressing with careers in other vocations, you look at guys who've gone on to other clubs, but alongside their clubs they've gone and done other education. In the boys that come back and join us and want to be part of what they were a part of as a player, they want to come and join as a staff, they're all things to be celebrated. So the whole concept of, you know, education is not really taken, they don't care about it. And I can talk for other clubs because we work with other clubs that 98% is in that category. I can't think of many clubs that, off the top of my head, that would have now a mindset that wouldn't say, look, we do want better lads as well as players, especially with the reputation that the game potentially could be seen to have with some of the issues that crop up in sport in general. No one wants to be an advocate for not helping them be better people on and off the pitch. So yeah, I think it is a misconception that it's not considered important, because it is really important.
Yeah, just to add on to it and just to give a bit extra critical analysis, I think one of the beauties of football is the fact that it's so diverse, you know, from the individuals that are involved, but also that covers to that level of intellect. There is a huge level of diversity. You use our cohort, there's a huge diversity in that level of intellect if you're relating it to academic intellect. But then on top of that, how do you measure intellect? Because you can argue some of the most intelligent footballers, or to be able to compete at an elite level, you must have, like Dan said, you must have a certain high level of intellect. It's just how you're measuring, what you're using as a measuring stick.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers. I went on a bit, but...
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, no,
Rambling.
we're in